Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about my adolescence. And it's funny because when I was a junior in high school at the beginning of the year, I felt like I had been through a lot of crap. And I was like, wow, but I'm kind of strong now that I've been through this crap. And I guess it was some kind of big crap. I guess so. When I was in eighth grade, one of our neighbors reported my mom to DCFS because I guess two of my siblings were trying to put up a volleyball net in the backyard, and one of them missed the stick with the mallet, and their face got cut by the stick. And basically, so let's see, it's probably easiest if we go with the designations of, because I'm one of 9 siblings that was living. My mom had I guess a third kid, but that would be 3 out of 10. But out of the 9 who I knew growing up, I am 4th, and then the kid who cut their eye was 6th of 9. So 7th of 9 runs over to the neighbor's house and is like, 6 is bleeding, 6 is bleeding. And so the neighbor comes over and is like, hey, what's up? Oh my gosh, there's orange juice all over the floor, and this kid is bleeding, and the mom's not home. So she made a report to DCFS that things were altogether unsatisfactory at our place. And so then a social worker comes over to the school to talk to me to, investigate what our deal is. And supposedly I gave such satisfactory answers that they went ahead and concluded the investigation, and I saved the family. Ha 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 ha. Although at the end of that year, then my mom left my dad, so family unsaved. It was weird because my mom went with my dad on a trip to Europe, and they were in Europe. Let's see. Yeah, my dad had some kind of a civilian post with a naval fleet, and so that was the occasion of them going to Europe. And then when my mom got back, she told us that she had a dream, and in the dream there was a divided staircase. I guess I kind of picture the one in Gone with the Wind where there's a big central staircase, and then at the landing it goes both ways up the rest of the way. It splits and goes both ways up. Anyway, so she said she dreamed that she was going up the stairway, and she went up a different stairway from my dad. Okay, and so this is all as 8th grade is winding down, and so they used to live in Northern Virginia, and so in connection with this post with the fleet, we had moved down to Virginia Beach, which is almost North Carolina. And then so at the end of that school year, my mom moved back to the house they had in Northern Virginia, and my dad stayed in the house in Virginia Beach. And so that was their first separation. And my mom thought she was going to be all badass and support herself and because she is a pretty good painter. She was a pretty good painter. She actually died in 2020 of colon cancer. So that's fast forwarding a little bit. I'm 53. Yeah, I'm 53. So that is what happened. But she moved back home, and he stayed in the other house for a while. I think he explored options of continuing that career path he was on. And they got some therapy. She paid her therapist with a painting she made of a mountain from where the therapist had grown up in Utah. My mom was also from Utah. I live in Utah now. So, so I guess you better know now that we're all Mormon. So if that's going to be a problem, it's probably better to know now than in Brain Rules when you get to the last chapter and he's like, I am an atheist. Anyway. So that is what happened there. But during that time, I guess one day we're back in Northern Virginia and I'm starting 9th grade and I'm bummed out because I had taken Latin in 8th grade and I thought I was going to be awesome because all my older siblings had taken Latin because we were all supposed to be doctors or lawyers when we grew up. And so my older sister, who was, so this is 3 of 9, she's the one who actually grew up to become a doctor out of all of us. Nobody grew up to be a lawyer. But this 3 of 9 kind of is my Irish twin. We weren't in the same year of school, but we were the same height always growing up until I started being taller than her. And we had a very complex relationship, which hopefully I'll explain before I get too long on into things. But mostly right now I'm talking about how my mom is somebody that I kind of, my every thought was, how can I make mom happy? And, whereas my Irish twin, 3 of 9, she was always about what's real, what's true, and how can anything be better? And so my mom always insisted that she didn't prefer any of her kids over any others. And I kind of know what she means. I understand why she thought that was the case. But, it was basically like if you have a dog and a cat and you love the dog and the cat equally, but the cat could definitely form the impression that you prefer the dog, because the dog wants to do what you're doing and the cat wants to do what it's doing. And the cat is like, if you were with it, you would want to be doing what I'm doing. Anyway, so that was kind of the dynamic in that little triad of characters. The strange thing is, though, I was also really, I will use kind of the word imprinted in kind of a very loose way here, basically in this chapter I'm kind of talking about how I have borderline personality disorder. So even though it would be many decades before I would understand that that's what I had, I just thought I had depression and that I was a really nice person. But, as a borderline person, I would be imprint on either my mom or this Irish twin sister. Because she kind of raised me in many respects. I mean, obviously, well, I don't know. Okay. So here's the thing. When I was 12, my mom started letting me cook dinner for the whole family. And would give me a budget, and I would go to the store and try to buy food, and we would eat just spaghetti noodles with just jarred sauce on it, and that was a dinner. And it was okay because my dad would make us eat fish every day, and so that also would supplement our diet. But, insofar as I was making dinners for people to sit down and eat, they were almost entirely plant-based, which I guess is kind of healthy. I don't know. They weren't whole grain. But anyway, so I don't feel super bad saying that my sister raised me as much as my mom did, because by the time I was 12, my mom was having me assume a lot of household responsibilities for our younger siblings. And so, I don't know. I may or may not talk more about that as I go on, but I mean, obviously my parents got divorced. So my mom kind of saw the world as like two kinds of people, and one was good people like her, and the other one was bad people like my dad. And in her worldview, her own mother was kind of like my dad, and her mother's mother was kind of like my dad. And this sister of mine, the Irish twin, the older Irish twin, I should definitely specify there, they were people who liked to tell other people what to do, whereas my mom saw herself and me as being people who were Christ-like, basically. And I guess, I don't know, I guess I need to delve here into Mormon theology a little bit, because during Mitt Romney's presidential campaign, you probably heard that Mormons believe that Jesus Christ and the devil are brothers. And I mean, that's, I guess, true in a cosmic sense. I mean, I think all of Christianity at least teaches that Satan is a fallen angel. He was Lucifer, the morning star, and then he made bad choices, and now he's the devil. So when we say Jesus and the devil are brothers, we mean that's how they started out, and then Satan made bad choices. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, so of these two kinds of ways of being that my mom sort of saw the world as, I mean, she did see a lot of people who were just kind of in the middle. But in terms of everyone who was very close to her, she saw them as either being Satan, who Satan's problem was pride and feeling like he had a better way of doing things than God, whereas Jesus is, "Thy will be done," or I can't remember what he supposedly said back when Satan originally went off the rails, but anyway. So that is kind of the deal. I mean, I only had two siblings that my mom really thought were kind of hypercritical, or another expression she used, this is terrible, like, hopefully all my siblings, like, I'm not writing this for my siblings because my siblings already know about most of my stuff. This older Irish twin who was 3 of 9 and then 8 of 9, were both folks that my mom said were kind of dog in the manger. So someone who like is never satisfied with anything, and they're always pointing out ways that something could be better. I guess she has said that at least as far as Thanksgiving dinner is concerned, that there is one other brother that she kind of thought was like that. That was the oldest brother. And so oddly, I think, and this sister, my Irish twin, I mean, she was in AP English and stuff, and she would say my mom was like Professor Pangloss from Candide. So Professor Pangloss's maxim was, we live in the best of all possible worlds. Anything that you can describe, because it exists, is the best of all possible worlds. And so I guess in modern parlance, my primary sister, I guess I'll say, would deem this toxic positivity. Anyway, so the funny thing is, I was going to say, is that my oldest sister, so numero uno, you know, she and the older Irish twin, so what would that be? O-I-T. Yeah, that's not a very good, whatever. Okay, the one who grew up to be a doctor, so doctor sister, and my oldest sister both had this trait that I kind of associate with people who, well, and I've heard it described in, blogs as that just because somebody's running late all the time doesn't mean that they're a narcissist, okay? So I'm not saying that just because these people run late all the time that they're narcissists. But I can say from, let's say 16 times 52 Sunday mornings of my childhood, sitting in the car waiting for them to come out to the car, that it seemed very much to be the case that they didn't see the point of waiting on somebody else. And I guess an illustration of this is in Iron Man, the first movie, when he's getting onto the jet with Rhodey to go to their doodah and demonstrate the weapons anyway. So he's walking up to the plane, and Rhodey's like, 2 hours late, 2 hours late. And Tony Stark says, and now we're waiting on you. So, that's the thing, is like, I don't even want to be made late by you complaining about how I'm 2 hours late. Anyway, so my number one sister, she was like the number one child. So even though she didn't have an extremely critical habit, like she didn't need to, because everything revolved around her. She was also the first grandchild in my mother's family and my father's family, now that I think about it. And so, yeah, I don't really know how to tell you where I'm going with that. And it's not like the child of this number one daughter, who is also the number one grandchild, she had a whole other different patchwork of things that occurred. But Anyway, I think like when the number one daughter was 7 or something like that, like a little tiny girl, my grandma, which means we'll just use that as because she's generally the only one who was like present for most of the time, because my father's mother came from China and lived in China, and then once they came to the US they moved to San Francisco. But you know, white grandma, I guess I can say. Ooh, white grandma gave number one daughter a violin, and number one daughter became a brilliant violin player, and that kind of was the beginning of kind of the effective degree to which they were kind of blessed and chosen and you know, wonderful, you know, which, you know, it would make her laugh to hear that, because her life has been super complicated. But, you know, we'll probably get there over time. But, you know, in my mind growing up, oh, I guess I better pause this and pay attention to the detour.